So, table of contents, configuring network devices, command line operation guide, commonly used commands, and of course, how do you configure remote login. Remote login meaning SSH telnet. So, I think for the example, it's just telnet, but you can also configure SSH as necessary. Okay. The command line interface, so there are multiple ways. You can log in using the console port of the switch or the router. Logging in remotely through the AUX port, how do you use yung AUX? There was just actually this one time where I've heard of the AUX port being used. If you want someone from another ISP, dial in siya to access the remote console. So that's how they do yung AUX. Telnet, SSH, and of course, serial port. Console port. So, lahat naman po nakapag-configure ng network device. Everybody. Let's configure the network device. Probably a new connection. So, you use PuTTY. At least for this example, you use PuTTY. But feel free to use any terminal emulator platform. Wala mong problem. You can use Secure CRT. No problem. You can use Super PuTTY. If you've heard of Super PuTTY. MobiX term. TeraTerm, whatever term that is, Hyperterminal,
Terminator.
Terminator X, whatever you want, just use. Select serial actually. So serial, select your COM port. How do you check for your COM port? Device manager. So you have to check your device manager. There's COM and LPT devices. You can check which COM port to use. Configuration interface. So actually, kulang tong step na to. You wanna know why? Kasi if you want to initially configure an HTC device, we have this feature what we call auto-config. Have you heard of auto-config before? I think that's for another brand. So what auto-config? So this is what you have another switch here. This one is already configured. Then you also have a TFTP server. Okay. TFTP server. So you also have a TFTP server here. So what this switch does, if you don't terminate auto-config, so the termination of auto-config is Control V, Control V, or C. So what it does if you don't terminate auto-config is that switch will request for an IP address, DHCP, via DHCP. Then if you configure DHCP properly, it will get a file from the TFTP server. Yung file na yun po, that file, is the .cfg file. Once na nakuha po ng switch, once the switch gets a .cfg file, yun na po yung kukunin niyang running config or current configuration. So basically, para nag-zero touch provisioning ka, nag-push ka ng config dun sa. So yan. A lot of switches, for example. For example, you have 100 switches. You don't want to configure those switches anymore. The use case is that plug the switch, get an IP, get a configuration. That's it. So, yun po yung auto-config ni H3C. Okay. Connection through the AUX port. So, paano po ba yung connectivity via AUX port? So, you have a modem here. May modem, then there's another modem. You connect the serial port, papunta dun sa terminal. Serial, modem, AUX. So, config the router over here. So, mostly, remote configurations po yung ginagawa dito. Via telnet. So, you have an IP network. You have a host here, a switch. Then, the router or the switch will also act as your telnet server. So, once the router or the switch, you already configured the router or the switch as a telnet server. Telnet, it's username, password, or just password. So that's how you configure Telnet, and after configuring Telnet, you can have your PC as a Telnet client to connect to the router or the switch. So, introduction to Secure Shell. Secure Shell offers an approach to logging into a remote device securely. Why securely? Bakit secure? Si Telnet. Si SSH compared kay Telnet. May encryption. Okay, that's correct. May encryption. Ano pa yung pwedeng security ni SSH? Well, authentication is already secure. Paano naging secure si SSH? Because it offers you a variety of a number of ways to log into the device. What do you mean by a variety of ways to log into the device? You can log in via it's mentioned here. So you can use a public key certificate, authentication, username and password as well. So yun po, bakit siya naging secure. And apart from that, bakit siya secure compared to Telnet? So compared to Telnet, it's secure because your username and passwords are not sent in clear text. So if you use a packet sniffer like Wireshark, try using Telnet, hanapin niyo yung packet ng Telnet, kita niyo yung username and password. You can actually see the username. Guys, so ano po ba yung sa amin? So we have what we call user view. User view is the same as yung privilege exec mode sa ibang brands. Privilege exec modes. System view, this is where you do yung configurations naman. So it's the same as yung configuration view. Routing protocol view. If you're configuring routing protocols, that's the time na dyan tayo babagsak sa routing protocol view. So as I mentioned, routing protocols, ISIS, BGP, OSPF, RIP. So yun po yung routing protocols na available sa device. And of course, static routes. Because static routes should be available to all sorts of devices. Interface view. So dito naman po yung port-specific configuration sa interface view. So ano po ba yung kino-configure sa interface view? Is it an access port or a trunk port? We also have a hybrid port which I'll be discussing later. 802.1x. So if you want to use 802.1x on your network or 802.1x, you configure some parameters sa interface view. For IPv6, will the interface join the routing? So yun po yung mga pwedeng config sa line view, mostly sa authentication naman po yan. So line VTY, line con, so yun po yung mga another. So probably you might want to take note, lalo na pag nagko-config kayo ng devices. So user view to system view, execute the system view command, then if you interface the interface command, punta siya sa interface view. Quit, balik. Ito pala yung ano dito. So if you're coming from another platform, you can actually use exit. So medyo flexible po yung paggamit ni Comair. Unlike sa ibang brand, kung sabihin yung brand, you can just use quit, walang exit. So for example, if you're just new to Comair, you want to learn Comair, yung learning curve is not as high compared dun sa ibang brands. So you have system view. This is an example of how you configure an interface. System view, interface description, authentication mode scheme. So yung authentication mode scheme is the username password. Okay. So if you can see here, saan lang ba dito nag-iba yung config compared sa brand ni Sarolan kanina? Kasi as far as I know, same yung CLI yung brand ni Sarolan tsaka ng isang brand na letter C. Saan lang na iba? Probably dito lang, system view. That's it. Description, IP address. One tip, if you're defining an IP address, tapos medyo tinatamad ka, 192.168.0.1 na IP address, IP ad pa rin, not space, kung ano man yung ano. So, if it's a /24, space 24. Okay. Medyo maganda yung
Slash or space?
space 24. So, 192.168.0.1, if it's /24, space 24 lang. So, yung space dito, nandiyan pa rin yan. But, you can actually convert this one. This one, you can actually convert it to just 24 space. So, space lang siya. Okay. Yeah.
May ano din, shortcut or auto,
Yung
tab or
Meron sir pag shortcut, if you want, for example, if you want medyo hardcore na shortcut, hindi ko alam kung alam ni Jay sir. Sa switching mamaya, I'll probably introduce that command to you. So, I can have single letters. So, kung gusto ko single letters lang actually kaya. Diba?
team.
You can tong command na to gagana. So, lagay mo sa interface G101. Pwede yan actually. Gagana yan. Trunk. So, if you want trunk port trunk permit bill and all. Single letters actually tatakbo. Paano ko nakuha tong command na yung sa kabilang brand actually, may isang engineer doon hardcore. He's a Chinese engineer, pinadala galing China. So, ang ginagawa, nakita ko type siya, isang letra lang. Magkano ba yan? Will it work? Single letters, it did. Kaya medyo nakakuha ko ng tip sa kanya. Okay? So, usually yung read type, what you do yung display tsaka yung directory command. So, write type naman, usually info center enable, usually mga enabling and debugging. Execution type, you have the pings, the FTPs, and yung mga command mo. You have network admin, network operator. Level N. So, yung level N, hindi ko sure kung nakalagay dito yung levels. Wala. So, actually, network admin is level 15. If ito, since we have yung level dito, you have yung levels here, right? You have yung levels here. You have yung levels there. 0 to 15. Ang meron lang dito, naka-discuss pa 0, 0, 1. Level 0, level 1. Level 9, this is yung network operator command. And the level 15, ito po yung network admin naman. So, super user. Level 9, you have the rights to configure, except this command, and of course, if you want to put new users. Actually, hindi nakalagay dyan. So, if you want to put new users, you have to be at network admin level. Command line help. So, how do you use help? Same with the other brands, you use question mark. Question mark. Question mark is your best friend. Command line help, error prompts. So ito yung mga error prompts. If you, pag nag-shortcut ka, tapos sobrang iksi na shortcut mo, ito yung lalabas. Ambiguous command found that position. So, need to type more letters. Unrecognized command might have some type of typo. For this one, incomplete type, so meaning you need to type another. You need to type another more commands. The next is too many parameters. So if you have too many parameters, probably this one is not necessary anymore. Okay. This one probably not necessary anymore. So tanggalin nyo lang. Just remove it. Wrong parameter. Sorry. Okay. Wrong parameter meaning most likely wala yan. No such thing exists or naglagay ka ng unnecessary space. Okay. Huli mong tinype display history command. So actually, you can just type it this tapos. If you want yung command history up down, just press up or down. Same with the yan. So probably not gonna be asked on the exam. Yun lang yung ano.
Sir, gusto kayo pa nag-prepare?
Wala na yun sir kasi nasa pag, when you run the system, it's not on the log, sir. So unless you put it on, wala pa rin, sir, kasi minsan nga yung sa session na yun lang. On the session itself lang yung display history command. Except if you use display history command all users, probably. That's the time na you might be able to see most of the commands. Okay. Yeah, if you have
Sir?
logging,
May history din siya na log history. If ever yung mga previous na nire-record.
may logging naman yun. Showing items per page. Display interface. If you see this more, just press the space bar usually. Okay. System. Or just type sys. Would actually want you to experiment dun sa mga laptops if you already have the configurator. So if the configurator, just feel free to export the commands. Clock date time if you want to set, but mostly if you want to set the clock, or if you're in a managed network, probably you might want to use NTP. Just use NTP instead. Display clock if you want to check the time. And banners. So header, login, message of the day, shell. So those are the commands. If you want to view the version, so display version. Actually, you can also use show. As I mentioned, you can use show. Show current configuration, display, so display interface, display IP interface brief. So take note of this one. This might probably be one of the commands na hindi nyo kayang i-shortcut. Itong brief part na to. Why? Because if you type BR, it might refer to a bridge interface. If there's no bridge interface, probably you're safe. So in bridge interface, we'll discuss that later. Okay. Display diagnostic information. So familiar po yung command.
Anong brand yan?
Tanong nyo yan. Well actually hindi lang siya sa isang brand actually. If you're using the other H brand, display diagnostic. If you're using some of the other brands, probably ito yung command. So ito yung equivalent niya kay H3C. So yeah. So, define an IP address, enable the telnet server, then of course, user interface VTY 0683 if the switch router is probably less. So authentication mode can be none, can be password, can be scheme. But if the authentication mode is password, be sure to define the password beforehand. Yeah. If you want to set yung password, you can actually set authentication, password, then user role. Probably if you're using Telnet, you might want level 15 na. Kasi just have a single terminal for that. That's why you might not want to use Telnet as well, because you can actually define the user roles on the local user level. So local user username, password. Usually you put the simple password. If you want just enter password, then just type the password. That's safer. Service type can be Telnet, can be SSH, can be HTTP, can be FTP. So it would depend on the requirement. Authorization attribute, the user role. So as I mentioned, there's level 1, 2, 3, 15, level 1 to 15, predefined 0, 1, 9, and 15.
Sir, yung hash.
Because you need to define the hashed password already. So hashed password siya. So ibig sabihin kung ano yung ita-type mo, it's the plain text equivalent of that hash. So usually you just use hash if you have an existing configuration and alam mo yung username and password. So typically, what I do is just type password, click on enter. Once I click enter, then I just type the password. That's safer actually. Because what happens when you type, for example, password simple ganito, password simple whatever, if you type that password, probably if you click up, sometimes might not show, may or may not show. So that's the concern there. So if you have access to the command history, probably you might be able to see password. But usually, hindi naman protected. Questions? You just configure Telnet on the switch or the router. This is just an example. Juluman, Windows XP. So if you want to log in via Telnet, you can actually use your PC. Just enable the Telnet client feature. I do recommend enabling the Telnet client feature sa Windows. Usually you can check the OpenTCP ports when you use the Telnet client. So that's the other use. Authentication mode scheme, password type SSH. We can probably do this on Thursday. So probably I'll be preparing some labs, might be the more practical ones, or just do the labs at home because medyo kulang po sa oras. RSA key, export, destroy, so just an RSA key para dun sa SSH certificate. If you want to take a picture or screenshot, actually, kahit hindi na po kayo kumuha ng picture because if you check the materials, nandun din yes. Okay. These days, Windows, I think, now has a built-in SSH client as well. So, PATI, SSH, type the IP, that's it. Enter the username and the